Boom, we're live. You know, this actually kind of reminds me of like 2017 and 2018 again, so welcome. Hope you're all having a good time. Remember, there's long-term visions with what we're doing here, and it's better to play that long-term game. You know, I saw a bunch of Bitcoin maxis comment on the video yesterday, be like, oh, well, don't you just only buy Bitcoin? You should only buy Bitcoin as the one and only. That's not true. We had like almost a 200x return on Matic and Fetch throughout that year. So no, it's not the only growth. Look at Monster Energy Drink. Again, part of this game is finding what you're passionate about and investing in those sectors. Look how ridiculous my hair looks. Whatever, it's close enough. So make sure that you follow that standard. Keep whatever, A, makes you money, and B, you're passionate about it. It's a much better flavor at the end of the day. We're gonna be going over some charts, because I know y'all like to do that, and talking about the Wyckoff accumulation areas, one of our favorites, obviously. Make sure everything's working. Give me a thumbs up if you think everything sounds good. I got this chat open on another screen here too, so that I don't make that mistake next time. Boom. So here is Bitcoin on the daily. So for those of you that have been following along and learning the Wyckoff methodology with us for the last 2 years, we love this for a few reasons. It helps remove a lot of the emotion. Again, we're longer term investors. We're not day traders. We don't try to get in and out of the markets. We look at longer time horizon for pretty much everything that we do, for better or for worse. Although how you mandate, let's say, profits and risk, that's really a personal definition. So green across the board almost today. There's only a few that are still down here in the total negative red like Soul Rise. But let's take a look at our North Star and guiding light. So Bitcoin is still that. We still believe that technology will be a reigning future money, and that decentralization and especially non-state backed money solves that. So I don't know why the Bitcoin maximies don't listen. They seem to be deaf. I think they're just stuck in an echo chamber. But ultimately, Ethereum has been the leader for allowing decentralized escrow and a lot of the fun new aspects of decentralized finance to come to life. So it's definitely not one or the other. This is an and situation. Now what we're looking at today was this a spring? Now I should get out of Binance charts here because there's a bunch of wash trading that takes place over there. And we'll go back just with our dollar index with trading view. So when we're looking at a trading range, the first selling climax and the spring usually have pretty equal volume signatures, and this is what it looks like so far. It does appear that we do have a volume signature that looks like a spring. Now we've bounced right up and touched the bottom of the trading range, so this is going to become pivotal. You're gonna want to keep an eye on this area around $18,600, and even on the weekly we can get a little bit more granular here to get a better picture. Again, we could make an argument that this is, on the weekly, the trading range doesn't appear to be as well defined. You could make an argument that we're still in phase B technically here. But on the daily, it's a little clearer that the longer term, or the trading range that we are in. So if we can't get back above 18,650, we're definitely coming lower. You know, yesterday with FTX going, apparently they were already insolvent, but everyone finding out that they were insolvent, there was a lot of fear in the market. Those are usually moments that drive springs. For instance, back in 2020 when Bitcoin first fell to the $3,000 mark again, I was short the market from around $9,000 just to protect the assets, because I knew, you know, I thought a pandemic was going to start in early January. There was evidence that someone had been nipping around with things in the lab potentially. So we were like, great, let's cover, and we'll go short here to make sure all of our balances maintain at least something. And we were right. Now, as soon as we hit the bottom at around $4,500 to $5,400, we realized that, okay, that was the end of the bottom. And that was peak maximum fear. And that's generally what you want to keep an eye out on, is where's the most fearful moments of the market. Those usually represent great buying opportunities. There's the age-old adage, I believe, by Baron Brown Rothschild, like a buy when there's blood in the streets. And that was the first time in my life I'd actually witnessed a blood in the streets type moment. So here, there's obviously no pandemic, although excess mortality is orders of, or like 30% above the 5-year rolling average. It's hard to exactly say what that means. So there is blood in the streets, just not being televised apparently. And FTX going insolvent. We saw where, well, let's go take a look at Solana, because Solana got absolutely fucked through this. But let's go back to Matic actually here and go to Matic on the weekly. So we were really excited about Matic, the closing above the 21-week moving average. We saw nice lines of support on the 21-week, and we jumped right up to the 55. We came all the way back down to the 21, and this morning we jumped right back up to the 55. So it actually looks like we might be seeing the formation of the secondary trading range in Matic take place approximately here. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens next. This was a spring if we close back above the range. Yeah, okay, so we'll use Bitcoin again as our guiding light here. The 21-week moving average will become important. Once we start closing above that, it's like a definitive. So let's actually draw that out here. So we've got it on the daily as well. So at around $20,000, seeing a close back above that on the weekly is bullish, and that's at 20,008. But on the daily here, we've got a much closer range that we're more interested in, which is the return back into the TR itself. So here's the trading range for Bitcoin on the daily, and I've marked out with the green line here as the close above the 21-week moving average. Obviously, we were rejected right off of that and real fast. So TA definitely has some strong indicators in there, but it's almost like flipping a coin. Technical analysis is beautiful for this reason, because it shows us probabilities, not exacts. If it was exact, it would be everyone would be able to make an infinite amount of money off of that, but it's a range of probabilities. So here, what we want to see is a close back above the first line of it around 18,700. So I'll change this color of this line here so it's a bit more obvious. This will be our green line, and we'll jack up the size so it's very visible. That's not a very good color. Let's go bright green. Yeah, there we go. So this is the bright red one. We'll jack this up and we'll go a nicer color red so it's easier to see, and a 4-pixel game here. And then our 21-week moving average, we're going to leave at, put it white, and we'll do the same thing, smash it up on the pixel range so you can tell. These are the 3 most prominent areas of the trading range that we are wanting to keep an eye on right now. So currently we came right back up to the bottom around 17,006 at the bottom of the trading range. We're seeing some sell pressure, but I also noticed in the private den, one of you guys had shared some fantastic ideas. Where was it? In the live trading, this one. One of the biggest whales in the Bitcoin space has restarted buying again, all the way from around that 16,005, 17,000 area. So we do see accumulation taking place within the range that we would expect. Now, the first candle brought us again right back to the bottom of the TR, but we want to see a close above 18,500. If we can't get back above this, we're definitely going lower. Now, Michael Burry's tweet yesterday about how much leverage in the ecosystem I think is vitally important to understand. It's something that I think I underestimated on this downwards momentum, is how much of this is still built off margin and fake numbers. FTX is a great example of that. 3 Arrows Capital, Luna, these were great examples of that. Balance sheets that were basically cooked with nothing in them but air. And this is one of the difficult parts about understanding the market maker when there's so much leverage in the ecosystem. And it's one of the things people underestimated about GameStop as well. All of those positions were over shorted. So a short squeeze didn't take that much pressure to push it back up because it was effectively a leverage play. That's what shorting is. You buy a stock that you don't own and then you sell it at a particular price so that if it goes down, you make profit off of the fact that you sold it at a higher price. Downside with shorting is that in an ecosystem like this where there's a lot more room for upside, it's difficult to manage risk because imagine if you went short Matic in 2018 and you had an infinite open position, you would be down like 250x on your buy. So there's always more room for upside than there is downside in a position. But also remember that volatility to the downside can be hugely profitable. A lot of people will use it as a risk adjustment to manage assets. I think options are probably better. These are all advanced strategies, not necessarily for the noob. It's really easy to get wiped out playing with leverage. Options is probably the best, but it takes a bit of a larger lesson to understand where you can get good options prices based off the market's current value. Making a large out of the money bet that Bitcoin will go to $100,000 in the next 6 months as a call option would likely be very underpriced. And if you bought that and then were right, you could make usually 10 to 1 type of returns. So options is a great way to spend a small amount of money, have a very well managed risk point. If you watch The Big Short, who is at the Brown, I forgot what they call themselves as a joke, Brown Hole, the garage fund, hedge fund, that was what they did. They looked out for really cheap options where people don't do a great job. And actually, this is a really interesting psychological point of this as well. People don't do a good job of pricing in black swans. I'm a prime example of not pricing in the black swan of FTX going insolvent. I was like, no, it's not going to happen. And because of that, those options markets are really cheap. If there was an option, if FTX had an option about them going insolvent, chances are that would have been really cheap. But had you bought that, you would have done really well. So understanding options is really important, especially as this market evolves. But from a simpler standpoint, it's easier to just focus on long-term acquisitions. There were a few of you that asked about the books that I had recommended. I only pointed out 100 Baggers, yet I talked about 2 books. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to show you very quickly now the second book that I like. It's called Dan Dao, which is a Chinese, or sorry, not a Chinese, an Indian term. Yes, here it is. So if you type in DHANDHO, Dan Dao, this is an Indian investor, but an Indian word as well. That's very similar to Wu Wei, which is high reward investments, which is the low risk, high value method for high returns. And this is what venture capital represents often, is how do you get the most money for the least amount of effort? In this ecosystem, when we've seen so many 100x returns, some even 1,000, at its high, Axie Infinity was 1,000x return from 2020, which is just mind-boggling. You put in 10 grand, you're walking away with like $10 million, which is just an amazing return for how much you risked. You could have only lost the 10 grand, but you could have walked away with 10 million. So this is the sentiment that both of those books try to provide. How do you get and then find and then hold on to during that process, because it's a very volatile ride, and the volatility itself is designed to get rid of you as an average investor. The up and down, the day trading stuff is designed to get rid of most people, and often they leave. There's a bunch of people for sure that will never come back to crypto until it's super popular again because of what just happened. So there is a reason to believe that this is the spring. I'm not going to bet on that yet. I still think that if you're new or even more an intermediate investor, the best way to do is just find that month over month accumulation price that you can afford, like you would a bill, right? So say you've got, everyone's bills are different. Some people's bills are way more expensive than other people, but let's start with a small bill for the average person. The average person already has an internet or a phone bill that costs like $100 or $200. It's a great place to start. If you do that over time, your aggregate price will level out and you will be able to get rid of a lot of the noise and the volatility in the market. You'll be able to stick around without getting confused, without getting wiped out. The second thing here that's always been important to recognize is understanding how valuable this market is based off why self-custody is so important. I lost a bunch of capital with FTX, at least up to now, and I just assume that it's gone. Now, as a longer term investor, I've gone through that process a few times, and you can just brush off 100 grand like it's not too big of a deal. But if you're new to this, it gets harder. So those larger numbers of how much you risk each time you invest really has to be based off your own risk to reward relationship. And that's different for everybody. That's why I think the best way to look at it for most people would be like a bill. You're not going to have the time to become a full-time trader. You're probably already a better rock mason, or you're already a better cartoonist. Focus on the things that you're good at and that you're passionate about, and then look at this as a constant investment strategy. Most of the time, people don't add an adaptive strategy to their investment thesis, yet it's one of the most powerful things that you can do. So again, right now, look at these numbers. Here's where they are. 17,700. If we can't close above that, we're definitely coming lower. If we start to close above 18,500 and more importantly 20,000 again, we're going higher, ladies and gentlemen, especially that 20,000 or 21,000 mark. But for now, what we need to do to get back into the trading range and to be in the green of the trading range is 18,600, approximately 18,700, 18,800. So these are hyper important areas for the Bitcoin chart. And if we resume now, again, it's easy to be bullish when everything looks green across the board. I mean, you got multiple things that did 30 to 100%, 143% on FTT from the bottom, right? So there are a lot of people that are playing these short-term trades. It's not my style. I'm no longer long-term interested in FTX. It's likely that they've just totally destroyed their brand and reputation for forever. Which is too bad. Again, I'll own up to my mistake. I liked Sam. I trusted people that I thought were good at what they were doing. Sam, I agree with Arthur Hayes here too. Sam had like the once in a lifetime panache of that really integral investor, but he blew up. He overestimated his own positions and he blew his whole fucking company up and took everybody with him. So it'll be basically impossible for them to recover from that. So I don't expect that they will. So ultimately, anyone that's trading FTT right now, these guys are trading, hey, this thing just dropped down a bunch. If I take a small position, I take a leverage play here, you can go 250x return already on that position. So that's likely what you're seeing on a bunch of this. But in our private newsletter, we went over a few that we thought were great plays. Sadly, FTT was looking like it was going to hold out really well. It was one of the ones that was closing below the 21 moving average, so we weren't as excited. But Matic on the weekly was one of the prominent ones, holding above the 21 and in between the 55 right now. So this is quite nice. It looks like we're going to see a new trading range form for Matic between the 21 and the 55. I guess it's called Polygon now for the most part, but anyways, it's still listed as Matic. So there were a few others that we were excited about. Let's see where they are. Link was starting to close above the 21-week moving average, and it slammed right back down to it. Now, this does not look like a great candle here. So again, there's more than enough reason to have cause for caution. You don't go all in at moments like this. Just be consistent and it will pay off. So Matic closing above the 21-week moving average still looks good. Who else do we have an eye on? Yeah, the Ethereum name server. This was looking really nice here. We had a nice closes above the 21-week moving average, and we've been slammed right back down below it. So although there's not a lot of, ENS is basically brand new here in the ecosystem as well. Aave was another one. It was trying to get back above the 21-week moving average. It still couldn't do it, but it's hanging off of it. So there are some reasons to believe that this was the spring. We're not there yet. We're nowhere near there yet. Let's take a look. Yeah, Harmony did the exact same thing, hung right off the bottom of the 21-week moving average. And where was the last ones we were looking at? Yeah, Uniswap, boom, below the 21-week moving average. Aave, interestingly enough, still above the falling falling wedge here, but definitely fell right off the 21-week moving average. So not a reason to get super bullish for anything yet, but I think with Bitcoin as our guiding light on the daily, this is the area you want to keep an eye on is over the next few days. A lot of people will be playing here, and you'll see a lot of accounts like those big whales we just looked at that are accumulating at this range because they know the game to play. If you see peak moments of fear, accumulate some, be patient, wait, accumulate some, be patient, wait. Bitcoin is still like the central guiding light of our portfolio and thesis. Nothing about that has changed. I just think it's silly. You're silly to not recognize the potential value in things like Matic. It's just ignorance, I think, at this point. People become religious about their investments, and it's blinding sometimes. I was definitely blinded by Sam. Blinded by the Sam. Anyways, point of it is, is to understand and grow from your mistakes, but also understand the growth and the potential that's within this entire ecosystem. It's very likely that this is the new financial ecosystem, and we could see a failure of governments to provide anything for the dollar. So, as a matter of fact, let's go take a look at how the dollar is doing today. The dollar has fallen through the floor at this moment. Doesn't look good. We had positive CPI numbers. They raised interest rates. Dollar's still down at a new weekly low, effectively. We'll take a look at the weekly here. Yeah. Although right down to the 21-week moving average for the dollar, this will be very interesting. We'll probably see one or two more jumps for the DXY here between the 9 and the 21-week moving average. So we'll probably see some sort of trading range close here. If we start to close below this more, we're going to come all the way back down to 102. We're going to see big growth in the market. Let's take a look at the S&P 500 as well. 4% on the S&P 500 now too. So this is really interesting. This looks like we might see a new close of around 420 for the S&P 500. They're going to want to provide some sort of velocity for the market in general. You know, everything was down a lot. If even looking at the traditional markets here, Square up 15% right to the weekly moving average. Tesla quite a bit below its weekly 21. Shopify has just been totally, but now up closing above the 21-week moving average. Look at Shopify since the top of. Again, what's interesting here to me, and I think this is important to note, this moment here, this is when the masks were removed. So the day the pandemic was declared was the best day to be buying, and the best day to be selling was the day the masks were removed effectively, and when we started to go back to some sort of normalcy. So you can use human emotions to pay attention and the news cycle to follow a lot of this. Although there's tons of noise in the news cycle, the peak moments of fear and the peak moments of like return to normalcy were clearly defined by, let's go back here. Here's 2020. Here's March 2020, the day the pandemic was declared, and back up at the top here was basically the day the masks were removed by a federal judge. So peak fear, and then back to normal. And then from there, basically straight down. They laid off like 11,000 people at Meta the other day. So we're near the bottom of the market. One of the interesting things too is to remember that when people are the most scared to buy in is one of the best times to buy in. And we're definitely close to that. I have a concern though that it could get a lot worse for the US dollar. You know, this has been the long time running. Everyone keeps talking about the dollar milkshake theory. The dollar's had a lot of strength coming up to this point, but it inevitably, like all currencies, will go to zero. That's just what happens over time. There's no currency in history that has ever gone farther than, never been able to maintain its value, because currencies are inherently inflationary, and when governments get in trouble, they inherently inflate the money supply to fight their wars and then to sell their politics, and that over time always bodes poorly for the currency. Does great for commodities. It will do great for things like gold and silver over time. It'll basically do great for any physical asset over time. Commodities do really well often in those switchovers. And Bitcoin, again, the guiding light of our thesis. I still don't know how Bitcoin maxis don't understand this. I've said it like every time. Bitcoin's still the guiding kind of center point of this entire thesis. Now, I don't think it's the only evolution, right? Web 2 was not just, oh, hey, we've got email protocols or HTTPS or Python. It was hundreds and hundreds of companies. I've got friends that still make millions of dollars a month from having websites that just sell like yoga ball chairs online. So the internet is fucking huge. It was never defined to just one area. Now, obviously, great investments are made in more than one area. So don't get cocky and think that the money supply is the most valuable thing. It's not. Over time, it will diminish its growth, and that's what we've seen with Bitcoin. Its returns year over year have diminished because there's only so much value you can get from providing the centerpiece of a money, right? Because money's not worth anything if you don't have fucking energy, and that's a fact. If you run out of gas and oil and things to power your home with, Nobody gives a fuck about Bitcoin. And that's important to understand. Our economy is not run off money. Our economy is run off energy. It is run off energy. And you have to remember that Bitcoin's not the only limited supply thing there is. Oil is also limited in supply. Now, we could get to a point in the future where energy is much more abundant, where we have a much better way to create energy, and I hope that we do. We need to reflect a more abundant society based off the growth we've had instead of a society that's insistently focused on scarcity. That will never do well. That always ends up in a dog-eat-dog relationship. And we, I believe, as a society, are on the verge of getting to a point where we could produce energy significantly cheaper than we ever have before. And that would be very interesting. It would make money as we know it basically worthless. If you can create a form of infinite energy, then money as a store of value becomes useless, because money is like a battery. It's where do you want to save that value? It's like so money is much more like a battery, because we don't have a good way to store that value, because energy is very fucking expensive. But if you remove that off energy, oh my God, it's a complete game changer. And over the next 20 to 40 years, as we advance our technological conversations, that might be what you see. Now, I'm not smart enough to know exactly what that is. Is it compact fusion or compact fission? It's definitely not fucking windmills and solar panels. That's a horrible thought process. I like diesel. As a matter of fact, I would rather buy a diesel generator at this point. It's better than solar, in my opinion, but that's a different story. Okay, so what's my point here? A long story short, we're looking for a return into the trading range for Bitcoin. I'll go back to my green. Let's go back to the daily. There we go. Okay, so here's the Bitcoin on the daily. This is the trading range that's most important. The big question was, is this a spring? It might have been. It definitely has the volume signature to be a spring. Again, ignore Binance's volume here. It's a lot of wash trading, which is good for the market makers too, by the way. The market makers love wash trading. So this could be it, but we need to see a return above 18,600. Otherwise, we're coming all the way down to 11 grand. So that's it. So really, it's a if this, then this, if that, then that. This is the final throws of this trading range, most likely. We got thrown down super hard, but that's a good thing for the market. Get rid of that leverage. I can't believe they were over leveraged. I'm still baffled by that. So let's take a look at your guys' thoughts and questions here. I do have another screen open, luckily, which I can do this from. All this action has got me doing study and watching videos again. Nice, that's good. 20,000 was a snooze fest up until recently. Great, I love that. This is also the exciting part. Volatility makes people pay attention. And this is one of the most difficult parts about the bull market for people, is that they don't show up until it's too late. So again, the best thesis if you show up too late is just to aggregate price over time, so that you're making entries even in the later parts of the market, because you need to start learning then, not later. So the best way to do it is to start small and then to aggregate over time. It's going to be a red Christmas, no Santa Claus, rally scooch drum. Yeah, this is really dependent upon the dollar. It's really dependent upon the dollar. We've now learned that the Federal Reserve is the only fucking game in town. There's really nothing else at the moment. Although, mind you, a lot of the people that are buying now are not buying off leverage or margin. Hopefully, goddamn, don't use leverage or margin to take positions, ladies and gentlemen. Don't take out loans against your house. CEO of Alameda Research is Caroline Ellis, daughter of head of MIT at economics school, who Gary Gensler's boss is when he taught at MIT. This all reeks of a job from MIT crypto cabal. Maybe. Again, I was disgusted when I saw Sam sitting on stage with Tony Blair and fucking Bill Clinton. I should have shorted everything they were doing at that moment, apparently. I fucking hate those people. And hate is a strong word. Let's say it this way. I'm disgusted by those people, you know. I've seen some breadcrumbs today about Gary Gensler talking behind the scenes with Sam. They were all up in each other's business. I mean, it's not everybody already knew that. I mean, they had Anthony Scaramucci on stage as well. There's clearly Sam was trying to get on the side of the Democrats. If you're not buying Bitcoin at these levels, you'll be sorry. Again, take out all of your emotions of whether you're going to be sorry or happy about an investment, and just take a thesis that you know pays off over time. That's the best way to do it. Again, I highly suggest the book 100 Baggers and Dan Dow. You could go back and look at those. Oil and fuel gets burnt and then it's gone. Yeah, it's even better than limited in supply. It's always being burnt at this moment. Without oil, this economy doesn't work, and Bitcoin's not worth anything, because we would collapse into total abyss. It would be the worst thing to happen ever. So yeah, we're an energy economy. We're not a money economy. I think a lot of people make that mistake. Although currency can definitely buy you what you want. I'm not arguing with that. Yeah, hate is a strong word. I retracted that. I'm disgusted by those people. Tell the truth, SBF is a mole planted by the collapse of the market. You know, the World Economic Forum is definitely a criminal organization, solely there to collapse the market. Yeah, it's hard to believe that absolutely everything in the world is a conspiracy theory when you can chalk it up to stupidity and greed. Again, the film, we watched The Big Short the other day. It was actually quite fun. Let's watch this let's go down to the 4 hour and take a closer look at some of the data points right now. Yeah, there we go. Here's a much clearer vision. Now, there's some strong sell wicks right below the trading range line here on Bitcoin that we're seeing. So yeah, we'll keep a close eye on the 1 hour to see where we are within the trading range. Yeah, it's already closing down between, yeah, there we are, stuck between the 21 and the 55 on the 1 hour now. But yeah, it's definitely clear that what happened in 2008 wasn't designed to collapse the market. It was created from stupid, greedy people. That's it. And there's a reason why the adage, the road to hell is paved in good intentions, is so important to understand. Because almost every time society collapses is because people think they're trying to do good, right? So let's imagine that the World Economic Forum isn't even a bad group of people, that they're just trying to do what they think is good for the world, and that's fucking horrible. WF lifts FTX on the site. They're in on Ripple too. No, I think the World Economic Forum is a criminal organization, whether it's through pure malintent or stupidity and greed and a path paved in good intentions. I'm not the universe. I can't tell what the universe is trying to figure out. But the one thing I have learned from sitting and meditating is that the universe is smarter than everybody. It's got some shit that it's trying to figure out clearly. It's like working through its own conversation. So often the people that appear as the bad guys are just the obstacles that society needs to overcome to make its next step forward. So you don't really want to get mad at the video game for what it's trying to do. The video game's trying to teach people things. It's trying to teach everyone a lesson, right? So looking at the devil as the bad guy is inherently stupid, because you realize you can't get rid of the devil. You can't get rid of the separation between the notes of C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. You can't get rid of the separation between the colors of red, orange, yellow, green, indigo, blue, violet. Those colors are the separation. This is actually a really unique quote from the Bible. It's like, your house is divided 2 against 3 and 3 against 2. What do you get when you divide 2 against 3? You get a perfect fifth. You get 0.666 repeated infinitely forever. So if you start to understand the potential primordial idea that the devil isn't some God that people pray to, but it's in fact a part of all things. It's what creates the separation of white light into the many colors, so that there is a world for us to live in at all. And it's kind of like philosophical rant here, but the purpose of my thoughts on the bad guys is that the bad guys are in place the same way that the separation between the notes of E and F are in place. They're there for a reason, and you can't get rid of it. So looking at it like it's a thing that you can get rid of is ignorant to the game, and often makes you a loser to that game as well. So play the game properly, understand that they're in for a reason, and then yeah, hopefully we all overcome the criminals that are the mother weffers. Yep. I like that philosophy. Yeah, I've studied music my whole life for the majority of it. I only got into business when I was around 27. But my interest was all around music, vibration, and studying some of these ancient religions because they were clearly intelligent about what they were producing. The problem is if you regurgitate something that's well beyond the average person's understanding, the division of 2 against 3 turns into, oh my God, it's the devil and devil worshipping. It's like, no, bro, these people were extraordinarily advanced in mathematics and what they were trying to tell you, and you failed to recognize that. It's not the devil's fault. It's part of the game. Peace Soup says the current low was a retest of the November 10th, 2020 daily candle of the $1.69 top was the 10th of 2021. Yeah, we're closing right below the trading range now, so that doesn't look good. This will be the next point that you keep an eye on here. Let's mark it on the screen. Boom. We probably come down to $16,600 within the next 4 hours, and then we'll look at it on the 4 hour. There it is too. So on the 4 hour, this is right at the bottom of the exponential moving averages on the bear claw. So it's very likely that that's where we drop back down to. And then that will be the kind of like final test of the day. If we can't close above, if we start to, well, let's go back to the 1 hour, it's clearer. We're going to come all the way down to 16,650 right now. If we bounce above 16,650 and come up to 18,000 like this, that should be a positive indicator. If we come back down here, can't get back above 17,500 again, we're coming down to 11 to 12 grand pretty quickly. So that's the kind of technical analysis up to for today. Oh, Brandon Ralph says, I'm a musician. Who's your favorite drummer? Danny Carey, 100%. The guy is a goddamn machine. It's called Cymatics, Cymatics. Actually, you know what? That'll be a beautiful thing to share right now. Just for those of you that have never looked at this, because I spent most of my life studying music. This is a really beautiful indication, I think, of what happens in the universe. You get these beautiful geometric sequences based off of sound. So the heptagram, which you find on all of the highway patrol badges of officers, this is a 7-pointed star. This internal one here on the left, or is it the septagram? Yeah, actually, you know what's interesting? The people who wrote the film Game of Thrones, the septagram is actually used as the logo for Joffrey's estate. And this is actually what you see when you play an A flat. So if you go up through the frequencies and notes, when you hit A flat, it actually creates this perfect heptagram. So where is it? Yeah, this is it. So here we go. This is actually someone singing through, so you can see how simple this is. Someone sings through a tube, and when they hit the A flat note, well, let's just skip to what you see. Boom, there it is. There's the 7-pointed star. That's the heptagram. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So here we go. The 7-pointed star is found in sand. So all the highway patrol officers' badges, these are not things that humans came up with. This is stuff that is hidden within the depths of vibration and nature. And I think people commonly underestimate the power of that. The 6-pointed star is no different. You'll be able to find it as well, locked inside of sound. Anyways, kind of a side point rant, but we're gonna leave it at that. Keep an eye on these ranges. write the numbers down. 16,600. If we break below that, we're going lower. If we close back above 18,500, we're going to be back in the range and looking like that was a sexy spring. So I'll leave that up here so we can check in tomorrow. We're on vacation for only another 10 days, and then we'll be back full time. We'll start doing these charting videos again. I know you guys like it. I was trying to play around with doing video editing and just conversations, trying to see what you guys like the most. So let me know your thoughts. Originally, I started YouTube for more of an artistic and creative part of my business than anything else, and I've just tried to lean into what you guys find the most interesting and the most valuable over time. So give us a thumbs up if you like this content. Remember to stay calm. Have yourself some daily meditations. You know, you'll feel better about it. Be grateful for what you already have, ladies and gentlemen. See you with the Arcane Bear. Thank you for joining us on today's episode, and we'll see you on the next one.